Hello YouTube, I'm Ozzy Dranza, and this is my first video in a very long time. So the other day I played in the Magic pre-release for Eldritch Moon, and I just thought I would put my deck up that I used at the pre-release. It did pretty well. I went 3-1, and I just wanted to, maybe start doing a Magic video every now and then. I'm not a super big fan of Magic Online. So most of them will probably be like updates of how I win at F&M or what deck I'm currently playing or what deck's doing well and just, the cards that make it up and stuff. So first episode, I thought I'd show you my Eldritch Moon pre-release deck. I played two pre-releases. The first one was the Midnight pre-release, and I played, what I played? I played Sultai, and it did really well. I didn't have a lot of powerful cards. It did very well. Well, it did okay. It wasn't very well. I got 5 packs. I think it was 2 packs for every win and one for a draw. So it did okay. I got 2 wins and a draw. Um, However, this deck performed, I think, better. It was a very close game that I lost. We'll go through some of the cards. So I had a bit of like a human slash werewolf theme, and I feel like I might have made a mistake with my splashes, but I'll get to it as I go through. So we just got run-of-the-mill Kessick Prowler. The transform actually came in handy a lot, and it happens all the time. Like 5 to transform it is really not that much. And once it is transformed, a 4/4 can only be blocked by one creature. It's usually just they're going to be chump blocking this thing a lot. So to turn a good value like 1 drop into an even better value late game creature, very good. I recommend this card. It was good. So I had just I should say I was playing a Jund deck. I just didn't have enough to be black green. I would have preferred to be just black green, but I didn't have. I just was missing something. Some bombs, I'd say. But anyway, I have Ghoulcaller's Accomplice. This guy's just good. He can chump, and then time lock your person essentially later in the game because you might just get another chump blocker. And he's a human also, which I'll just tell you, I had the True Faith sensor, and that got a lot of people. They just didn't realize, oh, that guy's also a human, so he's going to get extra value from True Faith sensor. I had Hamlet Captain. This guy, I don't know, he's great. If you've got humans in your deck and you play this guy, your opponent has to start thinking about all this combat mathematics that's going to go on. As long as he's in the block or the attack, all your other humans are getting pumped. So he's pretty good. Hinterland Logger, another really good 2-drop. I think in this format, your opponent's usually doing stuff, but that one turn where they are unable to play a spell, man, this thing is just really good. And once again, also works well with the True Faith sensor. Um, so this card is my questionable card in my deck. I'm not sure if it's good or bad. Primal Druid. My reasoning for it was, it was a human. I had a lot of cool little synergies there with True Faith sensor and the Hamlet Captain and stuff. So it wasn't so dead as like a 0/3. And also, a lot of my red cards were double. They were double red. So I wasn't probably going to draw out of out of my 4 mountains. I probably wasn't going to draw 2 naturally. So this was my only fixing, really. I didn't have anything else to work with. So I kind of needed to play that. This Ulvermore Captive, better than I expected, but the mana ability is nothing. I mean, maybe it ramps you in the early game, but in the late game, you're not needing that Ulvermold Abomination. If you have 7 mana to transform this thing, you don't need 2 extra colorless mana. But a 4/6, that's something special. So if you do have some like 4-drops, so on turn 3 you want to be playing 4-drops. Oops, wrong card. That's the card. This guy does some work. Not a very good blocker either. I mean, doesn't really do a lot of stuff, but I had some stuff you'll see later that this guy was ramping me into, so it wasn't too bad. We got the Byrate Courier. This card is just, good across. It's a 3/2. It's going to trade with just about every other 3-drop. It might get it at 4-drop. There's some 4-drops that are 4/3s, things like that. So it might catch it. And you get the Investigate on death. There's another reason this card is good. It's because of my following card, which is Emrakul's Evangel. This card was very, very good for me. I found my opponent had some really good, creatures. They had a bunch of equipments on it, and I had nothing to kill it. And at one point, this creature had menace, and it was, coming right at me. And I blocked with two creatures. He tried to pump to make sure his creature survived. And knowing I had lost the combat there, I was able to just tap and sack the two creatures that had blocked. And his damage did nothing. He wasted a removal spell, and I still had two 3/2s on the field. So 2/3/2 Eldrazi Horrors. So that really worked out well. I like this card. I think it's a good card. Guy Reach Bandit, obviously in this deck, this card's actually bonkers because I had plenty of werewolves. Even my like Eldrazi-fied werewolves, this could flip them. So it's a pretty good card. It has haste. It came in a lot of times and just blew out the opponent, thinking you only needed one blocker or something like that. So this card's actually really good. It's a good card. It's a very good card. I think I got lucky with some of my rares in this one. All right, so we got the Woodland Patrol, just a run-of-the-mill. This card was boosted by the fact that I had so many human synergies. Vigilance is great, it's gravy, but it didn't do anything super exciting, but it's good to just have a body like this out on the field. The Blackwood Survivalists. I don't think I ever hit Delirium very often when I had this card out, so it was just a 4/3 for 4. He's a big beater. He held back. He got me into a few stalls with my opponent where they were just like, oh, I don't want to lose my good creature. My 5-drop is probably a 5/4 or something like that. Don't want to lose that creature. So it's just a good basic card, and Delirium's just gravy. So Gavany Unhallowed. Now this card is a standout. This card went bonkers. When I versed it, the only game I lost, the only round I lost, but in both games I went 2-1. The two games my opponent got this Gavany Unhallowed out, it just went out of control. I couldn't deal with it. It just went nuts. Don't block with it until it's just such a big threat your opponent can't do anything. And you gum up the ground. The person who was using it was a full zombie, like it was a blue-black zombie flyers deck. So all his spells just were bringing out zombies, who he was happy to throw away to my attacks, and this thing just went bonkers, and I never drew the removal spell that I needed to kill it, so it just beat me to death. I think at one point he even equipped to it something like a Brawler's Plate, or I don't know, it was just out of control. This thing was really nuts. So here we have my first double red, two colorless creature. Now, I didn't really have a lot of chance to kill anything with this guy. I found every time I cast him, everything had 2 toughness in this set. I don't know. Like, there's a couple 1 toughness things, but I don't know. I didn't find I was killing very much. Maybe I didn't verse any real, like, spirits decks. That was probably where this thing just shines. Like, play it, kill the 2 spirits or that they've got out or whatever. But yeah, I found I wasn't killing a lot. Flipping it was great, though. This thing, when it attacks 2 damage, it really makes a difference. You can remove like a blocker. You can deal that last 2 damage. I'm pretty sure there were games where I played this thing, flipped it, and then my opponent was on 2 health at that point, and I was just like, cool, attack, and I get him. And it was in a board stall. It was in a state where, I wouldn't have won with anything else. There was nothing left in my deck to really get me through, and this guy did it. So he is pretty cool. And now my other rare, my ultra rare or whatever, is Wolf of Devil's Breach, another double red card. So stressful to try and get the mana base to work when your splash is actually all for double red cards, really. This card was amazing. It's really terrible in standard, obviously, but I can't tell you how many times I was happy to pitch cards to this and just burn out their stuff and just get through. It's a 5/5/2. I'll tell you a few stories about it once I get through all the cards. Distended Mindbender. Now this guy is the all-star that I cracked. He's really, really good. I emerged this a lot. I was happy to sacrifice the creature, and I took my opponent's hand apart. This thing, I think it'll make it in standard. Really brutal, just absolutely brutal. You take their removal spell that they're holding back for something bigger, and you're just sacking your little guy. They're not willing to waste that removal spell, and then a lot of the removal is like sorcery speed, so you just get them. You get them every time with this card. You just, like, once you've played it, they're so far behind. I mean, the only decks, the aggro decks, can avoid this thing because obviously you're playing it like maybe turn 5 or later, they can kind of just spew out. But honestly, if this thing comes down and you guys are just in an even mid-range game, you're fine. You're gonna get them with this thing. My final creature was It of the Horrid Swarm. This thing, this thing didn't. Whenever I played it and I got the value, I never wanted to emerge this. It just wasn't good enough. It was a 4/4/2. It didn't beat a lot of creatures that were like cheaper. You know, my opponent's playing a cheaper creature and it just doesn't beat it. And getting the 2 bodies was, it was just, you know, they were chump blockers at best. And as I said, a lot of creatures in this format have like 2 toughness, or they're flying. If they got 1 toughness, they're up in the air, and these things, they didn't do anything. So I don't know. 3 bodies, it's good. I think it's fine. It's fine, but it's not amazing. It's definitely not Distended Mindbender. Obviously, that's probably why it's a common and not a rare. In my spells, I had the Neglected Heirloom. I was able to flip this all the time. I had plenty of flip werewolves. Some turns equip it, flip the werewolf. Often with 6 mana, Kessig Prowler, or 7 mana. I guess I got to equip it to it, unless I've already equipped it to it earlier. But yeah, it was a really good card. And once it's flipped, it's just bonkers. You can like really easily win games. We got the Murderous Compulsion, probably the removal spell I used the most. Only problem with it is if you're in a board stall, which I found there to be a lot of board stalling in this. Like it's really hard to break through. This card is obviously, you know, you're sitting there waiting for your opponent to attack you. They're never going to attack you, and you've got this card in hand. Otherwise, it's great. If they're coming at you, you can really get them with this. True Face Sensor, we all know this is a great card. You know, you have humans in your deck, this card's even better. Vigilance really seemed very important in this, especially in a board stall when you got one big giant guy. You get this guy and he's vigilant. He's the thing holding him back, but he's also attacking every turn. It's really good. Now this card is why I was able to play my double red spells. So I played a ton of 3-drops. Oh, not a ton, like 4. But I always had a 3-drop out, and I was able to Eldritch Evolution into my Wolf of Devil Breach. This card is great. It's going to be good in Standard. This card it was good in Sealed. It's just really strong. It was pretty much the main way I was able to play my Wolf of Devil Breach. And if I was only had a 2-mana creature, I often was able to just get, you know, Smoldering Werewolf and or Gavany Unhallowed. It had some good synergies with the what's his name, Byway Courier. It was often fine to sack this thing, get the token, and stuff like that. It was a good card. I didn't mind sacking Ghoulcaller's Accomplice. I'm going to get value later, so it really worked well. Now this card, I'm going to tell you a story about this card after, but it's really good. Oh my god, this thing was just nuts. I got to tell you the story to tell you how nuts, but just know it's nuts. We got Wolfkin Bond. I think this is like functionally the same card as a card from Ravnica, I think. A white enchantment does the same thing, except it used to make a 2/2 knight. It's getting 2 bodies, pumping a guy, feels very good. I don't know if it's as amazing as it was back in Ravnica, because that was like, you know, almost in your top 3 picks, you would take that card. It was just really good. If you're in Y, that thing was, you know, insane. If you were drafting, that is. But here it did its job. Like 2-for-1ing was really good. Getting a 2-for-1, I guess. Like, you know, 2/2 on a guy, extra body, felt really good. And this was my main removal spell. I did not see it a lot, I'll tell you that much. It's slow and cumbersome, but if you just need to remove one thing, clear that space, it does good. And obviously you could see I managed to pull a dual land, which was fantastic. Probably the best turn 1 land I could play. I was pretty happy, unless I had Kessig Prowler in my hand. But it was this mana base, it did the job. I don't know if it's right. I'm always iffy on the mana. Sometimes I gamble a little bit. Like you can see, it's a bit of a gamble, but it worked out for me. So my best story of the night, best win, was me and my opponent had a stalled board state. They had a green-red deck like mine, all werewolves, and we were just completely stalled out. I think I had 3 creatures on the field. One of them was this Kessig Prowler flipped. I had, who did I have? I had Distended Mindbender, so I had some big guys, and I might have had one of my, 3/2s or something like that. My opponent had 6 werewolves on the field, but they really were just not doing anything. They were flipped and they were flipping back and forward, and they just couldn't get through such a big tough group of guys. And I draw with no cards in hand. I top deck Nahiri's Wrath, so there's nothing really I can do. My opponent equips one of his werewolves with the red card. What is it? Hang on, I'll have to get it out here. It allows them to it allows them to loot. It basically gives the creature haste and allows it to loot. I can't seem to find it right now. Oh, prophetic ravings. I'll put it up on the. I'll show you on the camera. I'll see if I can get it to focus. It might be too much light. But anyway, this prophetic raving. So he was able to just sit there looting for 6 turns. My opponent was looting every turn, not attacking, and I was just drawing land. And I just refused. I completely refused to play any of those lands. I was already up to enough to flip anything or play any spell. I had 8 lands on field, and I waited 6 turns. I drew 6 lands. Okay, nothing I can do. No Nahiri's Wrath, and we get to almost time as well. My opponent's on a low life total, but we're so stagnant we can't do anything. And I draw It of the Horrid Swarms. So I have 6 lands and It of the Horrid Swarms, and I play my Nahiri's Wrath, and I am able to hit each creature for 8. Because it's X amount of creatures take the converted mana cost of damage. And I thought, at first I thought I might be wrong, that the damage is like spelled out. You know, I can do 1 damage here, 2 damage there. But it's damage equal to the converted mana cost of the discarded cards to each of up to X target creatures. So I don't know if I'm reading it wrong. You guys can tell me in the comment section, but I was able to do 8 damage to each creature. I think even if I could only do 8 damage individually, I actually could have taken out most of my opponent's board anyway, because they were werewolves, but they were like, you know, the smaller werewolves. They weren't the ones that break the format, you know, break the game, get through and stuff like that. Anyway, that was my best matchup, and I don't know why I started keeping lands, because generally I'm not that intelligent. I just like keep playing them out. But I kept the lands in hand. I had the Nahiri's Wrath. Maybe that changed my mind. But once I got there, I got through, and I managed to win that game. And that was my second win of the night. So that felt good. So that was my experience at the pre-release. I lost the game I lost, as I said, was against Black Blue, which I think is a really top color in this format. Like some of the zombies in this format really surprise you about how good they are once they're in the game. I mean, I don't know. I got this one here. You guys can check it out. I don't know if I can get it to view, but his name is Ingenious Scarb, Ingenious Scarb. That thing has prowess, and for one island, you can give it +1/-1 until the end of turn, and that's insane. Your opponent, you're sitting there with open mana. Your opponent doesn't know if a trick's coming. He doesn't know if you're just going to pump or whatever. It was really good. That card overperformed, I think, in my previous pre-release. So, anyway, that's my video for now. This is my first Magic one in a long time, and first video in a long time. So, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know how your pre-release went, and also, you know, if you want to link me to go to MTG Goldfish, put your deck up that you had at the pre-release, and let me know your wins or your bad beats, and I'll catch you later.